I slept undisturbed for the night. I got reading in the morning, but at 7 there was a pounding on my door. It was my dad. He yelled and screamed and threw a hissy fit, said that if I acted up one more time I'd be moving in with the family again. Of course I knew that wasn't an empty threat, and I also knew that this means there was a snitch. No teacher had seen the fights, and from what I know there aren't any cameras. It had to be Shusaku or Mizuki, actually. Mizuki's gone back to being completely brain dead, but I guess I should keep the potential snitches a bit more open. I got to the school as soon as my dad shut up. I searched around and the first quote-unquote person I found was Mizuki. I started going off at him, telling him all about how much of a shitty person he is. He tried to walk away because teachers were watching, but I only realized that was his reason afterwards. He ran off, but I found Shusaku and also gave him what's for. Even more than Mizuki since he can actually talk. I shoved him and he did it back, but I was the one to get in trouble. He walked off and teachers stayed around him. I was still so frustrated and started wandering around. I sat on a bench by the front gate and overheard Half Hair, Gihei, and Hondo talking. Hondo was leading the conversation, and when it wasn't about school it seemed like Half Hair could never agree with them. It was weirdly calming to sit as still as possible and focus on their conversation through the wind, but as soon as Half Hair walked past me I remembered the bin just inside the front doors. I grabbed her by her hair and dragged her to the bin. Gihei completely ignored us, and I got the satisfaction of watching Half Hair kick around helplessly. If only I could put that weird femboy in the trash. She got out and I tried to push her back in, but she was able to run off. I really tried to drag her into an outside bin, but teachers were wandering and she kept needlessly flailing. She wasn't screaming though, just quietly whining to be let go. I allowed her to run off, and as I watched I noticed something. She looks like my little sister, just without the tubes. I wasn't even doing anything, but the teachers were glaring at me. I leant against the wall, and by the time they left me alone it was time for class. I went into the gym and saw Shusaku, shirtless, talking to that femboy pervert. I yelled out to him, but the teacher told me off and I was forced to see him indecent like that for the whole hour. After I instantly got into a fight with him, I found out the hard way he can be a lot stronger than me. I yelled at him about how disgusting he is, which got him to put on some clothes and run away. I turned around to find Noriyori and Mizuki. I got up behind Mizuki and pushed him against the stage before he pushed back, and I fell into Saikaku, who started talking about flower arranging. Sitting behind me in science was the ginger femboy. He started trying to talk about manga, so I cut him off with reminding him how I know all about his little perversion. So he started talking to Mizuki, pretending he couldn't hear me, in the middle of me trying to stop Mizuki and the femboy's conversation. Noriyori came up to me and gave me 1,000 yen. I didn't know what to do, so I took the money, left the room and went up onto the roof. I honestly don't know how to feel about Noriyori. I talked to her one time about her boyfriend being gross. She defended him. The next day they broke up. Now she insults him, compliments me, and just gave me 1,000 yen. And she seems so genuine. I know I should just be happy, but what is she getting out of this? I don't want her to talk to me. Maybe not all my classmates are that bad. June from the debate club called me and asked if I was busy. Technically I wasn't since it was break, so I said no. He asked if I wanted to go to a cafe to chat. Considering how much of a dick my dad was to me this morning, I accepted. I met up with June outside the school and he took me to a really pleasant cafe. We talked for like 2 hours. We have enough in common. Fitness, games, music. He's not perverted. I even tolerated his jokes. Eventually we got on to talking about our lives. He moved out 2 years ago and is living in an apartment. He's only recently been able to quit his job to focus on music. He makes his own and ghostwrites for others. I told him about my dad and all the gross guys at school. I also had to admit I wasn't even supposed to be there, but by that point school was almost over. He asked if I thought it would be safe to go home, and that was when I realized I really was terrified of being back there. And I admitted that to him, so he proposed I stay with him. I'm 19, so it's not like I'm being kidnapped. My dad called me at least 25 times last night. I answered on the 17th, and when he let me talk I told him I was fine and I never wanted to see him again. Considering how far I am now, June had to take me to school at 7. He dropped me off at the back entrance where Noriyori was coming in from. She said good morning to me and I half-heartedly ignored her. I spent the little bit of the morning I had doing stretches, and Noriyori weirdly watched over me. She randomly brought up how much she likes Saikaku. I gave her a look and nodded before heading to the first class. Film studies ended and Half Hair instantly walked out. I followed her and watched from the front door as she just left the school. Maybe she knew I was following her, I don't know. I went back up into the classroom and heard the two genderqueer freaks being disgusting. I barely said anything to them and they started walking away, so I helped Whitehair out of the classroom like the good Samaritan I am. I followed him down to art class telling him how disgusting he is. I tried to continue after art but he was walking to the principal. I went back into the classroom and heard Shusaku telling Noriyori to kill herself. I intervened and Shusaku, Noriyori, Saikaku, Mizuki and I all got into a fight. Technically it was 3 against 2 but the boys were strong enough. Mainly Mizuki, but I guess that's because he decided to have a brain today. Obviously he doesn't use it for good though. The boys didn't seem to care much for Saikaku. Her main job was just trying to pull anyone off anyone. Surprisingly no teachers came in. Hondo, Takiko and the femboy were in the room but they were just ignoring what was happening at the back of the class. We fought for the entire break and when Mizuki and Shuaku ran away Noriyori and I stood outside of the classroom. Both of us were relatively beaten up, but we were standing. We nodded at each other and she walked away first. Math class ended and Shusaku instantly started stuff. I confronted him and he started holding his head like he was so stressed. Takaneo came up behind him and shoved him. He turned around and I was able to shove him just as the teacher left. Shusaku started to walk out and I tried to drag him into the bin but he grabbed me and shoved me in. When I got out no one was looking. Feeling completely disgusting I went over to Saikaku and Noriyori. They didn't acknowledge what happened and we went on talking about sport. When the bell went everyone but Saikaku left the room. Me and her kept talking and she said that if I wanted we could be on first name basis. So now she calls me Briar and I call her Nono. I think it'll take a while for me to get used to. I had to get to Jun's car as soon as the bell went to make sure my dad couldn't come get me. I got in the car and he instantly asked what happened. I explained the day I had and he seemed to feel so bad for me. He hugged me and apologized that I had to go through that. As soon as I got back to his house I took a warm shower and made sure everything was out of my hair. Then I watched some videos, played a puzzle game. I streamed for a while with no face camera, played some more video games, drank a lot of water. Tried to remind myself of how amazing I am, right before going to sleep. Over the weekend I streamed a lot trying to make money. Jun even joined in on some even though I didn't have my face camera on. He brought me some stuff to try get rid of my bruises. It kind of worked by Monday but that could just mean natural healing. I called the school and got Jun's number as the one they should call instead of my dad or mom. Jun knew about this obviously. Monday morning I did some stretches before Jun dropped me off at school. Luckily as I went through the back today I didn't run into Noriyori. We're kind of getting along but I still don't entirely trust her. I saw the femboy run through the gym into the girls' change room and Mizuki ran in from another direction. Noriyori was in there and already trying to get him out. I helped then went and yelled at the femboy who instantly started to leave. I followed him to the lockers. He kept trying to give me smart comebacks while I reiterated how absolutely foul it was for him to go in there. As soon as the bell went he ran off. I followed but he was staying between people. As I followed him Nono offered me 1,000 yen. I accepted and Mizuki and Shusaku appeared out of nowhere and started attacking Nono and so we quickly ducked into class. Pink Hair kept making lead gestures at me throughout class and he tried to leave as soon as the bell went. So I pushed him away from the door and shoved him in the bin. The teacher didn't even see. Nono pulled me aside and we started talking about video games. But I was pretty distracted because Shusaku was talking to the femboy and Noriyori was talking to Mizuki. The latter two eventually came over to us and Mizuki stood creepily behind Noriyori. We shoved him over to the teacher, who didn't do anything. On the way to maths I had to give Pink Hair a few good jostles, but a teacher told me off. During break I was watching Mizuki bully Hondo as Saburo desperately tried to get my attention. I wasn't too sure how to feel. Hondo deserved it. But I didn't want to go praising Mizuki. Then the best thing happened. Femboy went and stood next to the bin. I ran over and pushed him right in. Saburo, Noriyori and I all stood around watching. I insulted him and Noriyori revealed his name, Noritoshi. I guess it's better than femboy. Saburo and Noriyori didn't seem to get why I hate him but they also didn't help him out so. As soon as he got out I pushed him right back in, which honestly made my entire month worth it. I tried to get him in again but he ran off. Noritoshi didn't come to class and Saburo was still trying to get my attention. He was talking about music so I gave in. Mizuki came over looking for a fight and he looked really tired, so I really gave it to him. He barely got any hits in. It wasn't as rewarding as getting Noritoshi in the bin twice though. Like Friday when the afternoon came I had to sprint out the back to get to Jun's car. Back at Jun's apartment, I played a puzzle game to prepare myself for a stream, where someone so graciously gifted me 52 yen. On my second stream I got a bit more at 130 yen. I played a dating sim, took a shower, then went to bed. I had a dream about Miss Flatfeet last night. I miss her son much. Tuesday is White Day, which didn't affect me at all, since the guy I gave chocolates to on Valentine's Day definitely doesn't know I'm staying with June. When I got to school I wandered into the locker area and found Mizuki. I tried to shove him in the bin. He wasn't even fighting back, but a teacher caught me. While I was getting told off, Noriyori started insulting Mizuki for me. I joined in once the teachers left me alone and I got a good amount of insults and comebacks in before we had to go to class. I was planning to get Mizuki in the bin, but at first he wasn't close enough and there was a teacher. Then when I tried to get him in, everyone got in the way and it turned into a huge fight. I have no idea who was even in it. I got so close to pushing Mizuki in but accidentally got Noritoshi in instead, which, I mean, deserved, but that's not what I was aiming for. We all got told to go to the next class and I decided to talk to Nono a bit on the way. I started break by insulting Mizuki a bit. Then I went over to talk to Nono and get Noritoshi away from her. Mizuki came in and started insulting everyone, so we responded and suddenly we were the ones in trouble. The teachers weren't going away, so I couldn't do anything besides go to the next class. Not many people showed up to film studies. I didn't eat at break, so I was having a snack when Mizuki ran right into me somehow. The teacher was gone and Mizuki cowered in the corner of the classroom, so I cornered him, yelled and shoved him around. Honestly, it was quite therapeutic. Maybe if I broke one of his bones he wouldn't be able to be so careless. Noritoshi stood weirdly close and watched. Obviously that freak wanted to have the same done to him too, so I shoved him into the corner with Mizuki. They must have gotten concussions or something because neither of them did anything. The bell went for the final class and just as I went through the door Mizuki bawled me over once again. I screamed at him but the teacher told me I was fine and to just sit down. The bell went and I went to June's car out the back. I'm really happy my dad hadn't figured out where June's been parking. Back at the apartment I drank a lot of water, played a couple puzzle games, had an early shower, drank more water, streamed for a measly 91 yen, then I called it quits and went to bed.
In the last 10 days and the last week now, and I think Briar is finally living up to the title. How exciting is that? I'll see you in a week or more for the final. Stay safe, stay happy, please subscribe, and goodbye.